Good morning, Louisville. And parts they're on. My name is Sean. Super excited to be here. Scott, Liz, thank you for all your hard work and all the sponsors. It's been a great couple days and meeting everyone I've had a chance to meet, and I got to have fun today. I know we all just sit down, but if I can ask everybody to stand up. It's just a super simple exercise. Everybody stand up, and I just need everyone to high five anyone they can reach. Just high five your neighbors. On the aisle, walk across the aisle and high five your neighbors. I'll high five the front row here. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Thanks for sitting in the front row. All right, grab your seat. The Catholic Church portion of the program. If we can just pass the baskets from the sides, that'd be great. So if you would, look at the hand that you used to high five. Just look at the hand for a second. At the end of that hand is your fingerprint. Your unique fingerprint. No one else in the room has that fingerprint. That same hand that you use to high five is the same hand that you use to fist pump when something good happens in your life. What? That same hand as a kid is the kid that you made sure that mom or dad didn't cheat you out of any inches on the door jamb. How many of you guys had a door jamb in your house? Right? That same hand, I skipped a slide. That same hand is the hand you use to sign your signature. That same hand is also the hand that we use to salute people that have gone before us. And if you think about what we're trying to do, guys, is we're trying to leave a mark in the business. Neil talked about it today. I've heard it from other speakers. Every one of your past clients and everyone in your sphere of influence probably knows 10 other realtors. So why are they going to think of you? We have to do whatever we can to leave our mark on the people so that when they think about that. Should I switch to the handheld? Yeah. It's happened to Neil yesterday too. Check. Okay. The logos on the screen, everybody knows those logos without any words on the screen. They all left a mark on you. You know that logo because it's in your brain. Taglines can leave marks. Think about the tagline, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's a tagline we all know, but it's bullshit, isn't it? Because what happens in Vegas stays on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Yeah. By show of hands, how many of you guys are excited that there was no social media when you were in high school or college? Thank God, right? Because what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. Think about this. Jingles leave marks, don't they? The best part of waking up is... Yeah, you guys know that one. How about this one? I am stuck on Band-Aids because Band-Aids stuck on me like a good neighbor. You guys know that one? Give me a break, break me off a piece of that. Yeah. Now, does anyone in here a millennial, a self-admitted millennial? A couple of you? All right, non-millennials, help me out on this one. Non-millennials. Oh, my baloney has a first name, it's Oscar. And my baloney has a second name, it's Mayer. I like to eat it every day, and if you'll ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G. And millennials. She's looking at me thinking, oh my God, they just sang a song. I think about baloney. What the hell's baloney? Yet those of you guys in the room here haven't heard that song in probably 20 years. Yet as soon as I started singing it, you knew every word. Oscar Mayer. Who here has ever been driving down the road and seen the Wienermobile? Isn't that like the best day of your life? The Wienermobile and the LL Bean boot are the two things you might see on the road. Wienermobile's awesome. Smells leave marks. Think about this, a fresh jar of peanut butter, a new car smell, Auntie Anne's pretzels or Cinnabon at the airport. I think places leave marks. Think about this, when you go to see the USS Arizona at Pearl Harbor, or if you've been to Ground Zero, if you didn't know anyone that died that day, when you walk through Ground Zero, you feel their souls. And I think we all know people leave marks. The best mentors we've ever had in the business or outside of our business, right? It's friends of yours that you would literally try and get a 2 or 3 hour layover in your town so you could drink beers at the airport. And family. Family leave marks. Brothers, sisters, kids, but certainly parents. That's my wedding day, June 19th, 1993. My dad, in the middle there, died at age 61. He's left probably more of a mark on me since he's been gone than since he was alive. And I think we all know the impact parents can have.
Dad, got a little problem here. I've been stuck out here for an hour with no wind again. I'm supposed to be at Michelle's for dinner. So if you give me a little help, I'd appreciate it. If not, don't worry about it. I'm trying to do everything I think you'd be doing. And so far, it's going pretty good. I just want to tell you that I still love you, and I sure miss you a lot. Hey! Thanks, Dad! Oh, son of a... That's gonna leave a mark.
Tommy boy. Where's all my Wisconsin people? Yeah, Tommy Callahan. In case you didn't hear, here's what he said. Listen.
Oh, son of a... That's gonna leave a mark.
That's going to leave a mark. And that's what we're trying to do, guys. Every single day, we're trying to leave marks with the people that are our customers, certainly our clients, and our communities. Because when they think real estate, we want them to think about us. When I originally put this presentation together, it was going to be called Each One of Us Represents All of Us. Because that's how this business works. There's 1.5 million realtors, but each one of us represents all of us. If you do a good job in your town for your customers and clients, that helps me. If you do a bad job, that impacts me. Because it impacts our industry. This business is about serving others. The house is just the widget that we happen to use. It's the people that live in the houses. We serve other people. And what we're trying to do, guys, is there's a difference between great service and a memorable experience. See, great service is doing the job. A memorable experience goes before, during, and most importantly, after the transaction to keep leaving that mark on our customers and our clients and our communities. By show of hands, how many of you guys have ever worked in a restaurant in the front of the house? You were a hostess, waitress, bartender, server. And how about the back of the house? Anyone ever work in the back of the house? Yeah, and guess what? They both have to work together, don't they? No one here is going to go to a restaurant multiple times if the service is great and the food's horrible. And you're not going to go to a place where the service sucks and the food's great. You've got to figure out both. And in our business, we as the frontline people, we've got to be great servers and great experience. We got to find ways to put that together in our presentation. Think about those words, at your service. When someone says they're at your service, it kind of sounds like at the surface. And we know in our business, what's at the surface is not really the whole picture. See, we sit at our listing presentations and we say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're going to put your house on the market. We'll see at the closing table. But we know it looks like this. Sometimes we don't explain that to our customers and our clients, that there's way more to it than what meets the eye. We got to find a way to make sure that we are showing more than just what's at the surface, because that's where our value comes in. You've all seen this quote by Maya Angelou, right? It's one of my favorites. People forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And we have a chance to do that every transaction with every customer, client, or member of our community, is make them feel good. Let me share a quick story. Anyone ever read this book, The Fred Factor? Nobody? It's one of my favorite books. Came out in the early 2000s. Mark Sanborn wrote a book about his mailman who was named Fred. His mailman was so good, he wrote a book about him, and it became a national training phenomenon at corporate America around the country in the early 2000s. Well, I had a Fred Factor experience myself that I want to tell you about. When I travel to speak, once again, I said I'm from Columbus, Ohio. When I travel to speak and fly out of Port Columbus, for years I didn't park at the airport. I parked at a place called Thrifty, which was off the grounds of the airport. And what would happen is I'd drive up in the morning and valet would sit in my car and I would drive 7 minutes to get to the airport and I would fly away and they would take my car back and park it at Thrifty. When I landed, I would get my luggage. I'd walk out the parking lot and get in the shuttle bus that would take me to my car and I would drive home. In the wintertime, the heat was on and the snow had been dusted off. In the summertime, the air conditioning was blasting on nice and high, but it was the same every time. Luggage, shuttle bus, car, home. Every time. It was just luggage, shuttle bus, car, home. Except one time it wasn't. It was the end of summer. I'd been on the road for a couple days. My kids were still little. I was tired. I wanted to get home to see my family. I grabbed my luggage. I walked across the parking lot. I saw the shuttle bus sitting where it always sits. The door opened like it always opens, and out jumped Fred, the driver. Fred was new. Big smile on his face. He said, "Let me get your luggage for you, sir. Climb up in the cab. I've got the air conditioning on nice and high. It's been so humid here in Columbus the last couple of days. I'd never had anybody do that for me before." As I walked in the bus, I looked out the window and saw 3 or 4 other passengers surprised by Fred's gregarious nature as he jumped out of the bus and helped them with their luggage. They got on the bus and looked back thinking, that's never happened before. Before we drove away, Fred got back on the bus and he walked down the aisle of the bus with a basket of candy. "Would you like some candy? Would you like some candy?" Now for every passenger, some candy. As he went to buckle himself in, he says, "Folks, if you're from Columbus, welcome home. And if you're not from Columbus, welcome to what I think is the greatest city in America. Our weather forecast is going to be this for the next couple of days. Here's what's happening downtown. Here's what's happening at Ohio State campus. If you have any questions about what's going on this weekend, let me know. Once again, my name's Fred. Thanks for being passengers at Thrifty. We'll have you in your car in about 7 minutes." I leaned forward from the first row and I said, "Fred, do you work for the Chamber of Commerce?" And he smiled and he says, "Nope, I just love what I do and I love where I live." And I had the greatest shuttle bus ride of my life that night. I had the exact same shuttle bus ride I had every other time, except that time it was the best. When we got to the little terminal, I asked all the other passengers to get off the bus before me. I said, "Fred, can I take a picture of you and your candy dish?" He says, "Why do you want to do that, Mr. Carpenter?" I said, "I travel the country talking about great customer service, and you, my friend, just gave me the greatest shuttle bus ride of my life. I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to write a blog about you." He says, "I don't know what a blog is, but I'll pose for your picture." And I went home that night and I tucked my kids in and I kissed my wife. And I went downstairs and I wrote a blog post called "The Fred Factor in Real Life." And there's Fred. I called the manager at Thrifty the next morning because I wanted to send it to the manager. I thought this would be cool for him to know what an impact this guy had. The cool thing was about 10 or 12 days later on Facebook Messenger, I get a message from somebody that I don't know who it was. The message came in from a guy named Ted Brees, but it said, "Hello from Fred Rowe." Here's what it says. It says, "Hi, Sean. I'm not very computer illiterate, so it took me about a week to contact you instead of the very next day to say thank you for your kind words. I've had many customers compliment me with a quick thank you, but you went way beyond and took the time and effort to create an eloquent story about how I treat people at my work. When you sent it to Thrifty, it made quite a sensation with the managers who sent it to all the locations nationwide. I've gotten many congratulations from my peers and managers. My Columbus manager also gave me the next day off, Saturday. I never get Saturdays off. And 2 free tickets to the OSU Purdue game. What a treat. Best of all, your article added something positive in this world, when the only thing we ever hear on the news is quite the opposite. I believe the world is full of Freds like you who are filled with kindness. I perform acts of kindness every day, and I thank you very much for my big surprise. Sincerely, Fred." How cool is that? I get this from the manager a couple weeks later. "Thank you. This has gotten Fred the recognition he deserves. Employee of the month for the whole country, and I'll sure be nominated for Employee of the Year. Thanks again for the great pup." What do you think I hoped and prayed picked me up every time I came back to Columbus after this story? I would literally leave the terminal running to the bus. "Please be Fred, please be Fred, please be Fred." And the doors opened up and shit, it's Steve. I remember the first time it was not Fred, it was Steve, and I was so disappointed. And I put my own luggage on the bus. Not that I couldn't put my luggage on the bus, but it just was different. And I remember the first time it was Steve, I sat in my seat and I looked up at Steve, clearly a new driver, and I said, "Hey, Steve, where's Fred? I thought Fred worked on Tuesday nights." He goes, "Oh, we're so busy tonight, we have 2 buses running. He's on the other bus." I said, "Oh, would you get on your radio and tell him Sean said hi?" He says, "Wait a second. Are you Sean Carpenter?" I said, "I am." And he goes, "I've read your blog." I go, "You have?" And he goes, "Yeah, it hangs in our employee room. And when you're new here, you have to sign the bottom of it, because that's the kind of service we're trying to give to everybody." And I looked right at him and I said, "Steve, where the hell's my candy then?" Now, you guys know it had nothing to do with the candy, right? It had to do with the fact that Fred drives a shuttle bus for a living. But he drives the shuttle bus the way Michelangelo paints or Michael Jordan plays basketball. He drives a shuttle bus. What an awesome opportunity. I want you guys to go back and catch people in your towns being blog worthy. Find people doing a little more than you expected. Because when you start looking for people doing a little more than their job, you'll start doing a little more than your job. You'll start doing just a little bit extra for people just to make them think, man, I can do that. Now, some of you might say, I don't have a blog. Well, it's okay. You can catch people being Instagram worthy or Facebook worthy or TikTok worthy or Snapchat worthy or fill out the survey and mention the person by name worthy Or stop the manager on the way out the door and say, Sally down there at aisle 4, she's my favorite cashier in this entire store. She always has a smile on her face. When you can catch people doing awesome things, you'll start finding ways for people to catch you doing awesome things. And it's such a simple, simple thing. Here's Frank at the Columbia restaurant in Tampa. It's just amazing. So I put a little Facebook post about be like Frank. Or when I'm sitting in Denver, Colorado, speaking one day on my birthday, and I'm all there by myself, and I find a little beer garden. And Ian, the beer tender, made me feel like I was his best friend. And I said, Ian, come here, we're going to get a picture. I'm going to put you on Instagram. Make sure people know how awesome you are. If they ever come to Denver Beer Company, they need to find your station. What a simple thing for us to be able to do, guys. So when I say, are you ready to play? I know you are because you're here in this room. But understand this, wherever you're at around the country, getting in the game is just the competence to pass the test. Everyone in this room knows if you're going to win the game, it's the relationships. It's the relationships we have with our customers and our clients and our communities that makes the impact on winning the game. Great service isn't an act, it should be part of your culture. I've heard that word culture a couple times in the different sessions. And when you start figuring out what your culture is for your team, for your brokerage, for your community, for your tribe, it starts becoming something that you just make everything you do fit that culture. Let me tell you another story about the 2 hotels, the DoubleTree Club in Houston and the Hilton in San Francisco. Now, the DoubleTree Club in Houston, in full disclosure, I've never stayed there. But I guess the DoubleTree Club in Houston is probably just like every other DoubleTree. What are DoubleTree Clubs known for? Cookies, right? If you've never stayed at a DoubleTree Club hotel, all the DoubleTree Clubs have a little oven under the front desk. And when you check in, they hand you a freshly baked chocolate chip and walnut cookie. That's their signature thing, right? Well, I'm sure the DoubleTree Club in Houston does that as well. But the reason I know about the DoubleTree Club in Houston is because of this presentation, which you can find online, called Yours is a Very Bad Hotel. This was a presentation that was put online on a site called SlideShare, where instructors and speakers can share their slide decks. And this bad experience happened in 2001, 23 years ago, but it's been viewed over 88,000, probably by now 100,000 times because of a bad experience. And here's what the presentation said. In the early morning hours of November 15th in 2001, at the DoubleTree Club in Houston, we were treated very badly indeed. We're Tom and Shane from Seattle. We held reservations at your hotel. They were guaranteed for late arrival. Tom is a member of the Hilton VIP program, yet when we arrived at 2 a.m., we were refused rooms. Refused rooms, but we were confirmed and guaranteed. Well, Mike, your night clerk, said the only rooms left were off limits because their plumbing and air conditioning had broken. He'd given away the last good rooms 3 hours ago. He'd done nothing about finding us accommodations elsewhere. And he was deeply unapologetic. Now put yourself in these guys' shoes. Business travelers, George, I saw it happen to you on the way up here. Weather, mechanical, airport delays. They were probably okay to deal with that. They said, we got a hotel room tonight. We're going to get a late sleep, but we can wake up in the morning, do our presentation, we'll be fine. So what'd they do? Put in that situation, what would you guys do? Did you find another hotel? Nope, not these guys. They said, let's find an all-night Denny's and let's make a PowerPoint about how shitty the service was here. Because that's what consumers in today's world do. Now, if you're going to make a PowerPoint, you're not using PowerPoint a lot like I am as a speaker. You're going to make sure you're going to use lots of little animations and visuals that PowerPoint has. So the next slide was the career path of Mike, the night clerk. These guys weren't happy, were they? Now, this happened right after 9/11. So they mapped out where does the DoubleTree Club rank when it compares to other hotel providers around the world. And they ranked it down here under despises and mistreats customers and heading for a collapse. They put the youth hostel in Afghanistan higher than the hotel in Houston. They said the odds of us coming back to your hotel are so bad, we'll give you the odds. Lifetime chance of dying in a bathtub, 1 in 10,000. Earth being ejected from the solar system, 1 in 2.2 million. Winning the lottery in England, 1 in 13 million. The odds of us coming back to your hotel, worse than those odds. Wow. Now, the next one I want you to pay attention to, because I'm going to guess everyone in here are either a broker or an owner or you're an agent. And remember, if you're an agent, you don't work for your broker, you work with your broker. So you are your company. This is the one I want you to pay attention to. They said, here's how much money we used to spend at your hotel. And here's how much we're going to spend in the future. If you're Mike's manager, you're probably having a conversation with him the next day. Now, there's probably some big-hearted people in here that says, well, those guys were kind of jerks. They didn't have to do that. Mike wasn't fired. They used it as a training opportunity. But they did ask Tom and Shane to take the presentation down, which you can see they clearly haven't. They said, nope, that's how we feel, and we're the customers. I'd rather tell you the story about the Hilton in San Francisco. I'm a Marriott guy, all right, lifetime titanium, but the Hilton in San Francisco is where Inman Connect conference was held, and used to be held in New York City in January and in San Francisco in the summertime. And I was an Inman ambassador for years, and that meant that I would sit in the front row and I would Facebook and Instagram and blog and video about what I was experiencing at the conference so that my friends and followers on social media could follow along as well. After the first day of the event this one year at the Hilton, the MC came out and said, wow, what a great morning. Did you guys have fun today? Great. Well, here's what's going to happen this afternoon. We're going to give you an hour and a half for lunch. So go out into San Francisco and find some place to eat. And then be back in your seats at 2 o'clock because here's who's on this afternoon. As you can imagine, when there's only an hour and a half to grab lunch in a city like San Francisco with all the other conferences and people there, you got to find a place quickly or else you're not going to get back in time. Now, I luckily had already had a couple of buddies I was at the conference with reserving a spot for me at the diner across the street. So I was in no hurry to pack up my stuff in the front row. But as I put my laptop down and went to walk out of the ballroom, there was probably 1,000, maybe 2,000 seats in this event. And the last 10 or 12 people were walking out the far door to the lobby to go find lunch. Literally, the room was almost empty. And as I walked down the middle aisle in that room with my backpack on, I looked to my left and looked to my right, and all the chairs that had been set up had been kicked askew, and they were knocked over, and there was banana peels and coffee cups and plates from the continental breakfast and trash everywhere. And I thought, oh my God, this place looks like a mess. I can't believe this room was full of adults. It was so messy. And something caught my eye halfway through the room. What caught my eye was Marciano Arce, who worked at the Hilton. And he was going row by row, chair by chair, lining them back up with the lines in the carpet. It froze me in my tracks. I literally stopped halfway through the room with my backpack on, and I thought, well, there's no way he's going to touch every chair in this room. There's got to be 1,000 chairs, maybe 1,500 chairs, maybe 2,000 chairs in this room. And he did that row, and he did that row, and he did that row. And that's when I pulled my phone out of my pocket and took the picture you see on your screen. Now, I'm sure when I took that picture, he's probably thinking, why is this creep taking that picture? But I was so inspired, I walked back to the front row, wasn't even worried about lunch, walked back to the front row, pulled my laptop out, and wrote a blog post called, Are You the Chairman of Your Business? Are you doing things in your business because it's the right thing to do, whether anyone's going to see it or not? And I just wanted my readers that subscribe to my blog to see that little story about doing something because it's going to make someone else look better. I don't know who else in this room writes. I know, Neil, you do. That post came out of my heart or my head to my fingers. I posted it. There was no editing. I just hit post, and I ran and grabbed lunch. Later that night, there was a reception in the hotel for all the Inman guests. And in the Hilton in San Francisco, you walk in street level and you go down into the lobby. So when you walk in street level, you can see the whole lobby. And so there's a bar down there. And off to the side was a gentleman in a three-piece suit and an earpiece in. So I knew he was someone big, someone important. So I grabbed a beer and I sidled over to him. I said, you look very important. Who are you and what do you do here? He says, I'm the general manager of the hotel. I said, well, hey, we always have a great time when we're here. Can I tell you a story about one of your employees? I told him who I was. After a quick exchange, he sent me this email back. Look. Showed. I have mystery stripes on the screen.